Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping the audio does not mess up because this is the third time that I've recorded this intro. A little bit later in the video, there are some audio mess ups. I need a new microphone. I will get one as soon as I can, and I'm sorry. But today, we are going to be talking about Visera Runeblood, the original Runeblade hero from Arcane Rising. He has 4 intellect and 40 life, and the ability, whenever you play a Runeblade card, if you have played another non-attack action card this turn, create a Rune Chant token. Viz is a very strong hero, especially because we just came off of a Rune Blade set in Rosetta. He got so many powerful tools, and he's just so strong right now. One of the better heroes, not the best heroes, but a good hero to play if you just wanted a deck that can compete versus pretty much anything. Looking at the equipment, Reaping Blade is going to be our primary weapon of choice. It's the only Runeblade weapon that attacks for 1, and it gives us some counterplay to count your blessings. Other than that, it's just a strong weapon. It's the, I think, highest base of a Runeblade weapon that Visera has access to. So it's just good for all of that. And great with Grasp, letting us have sort of a Titan's Fist. For our headpiece, we have Face Purgatory. I've talked about this enough in Aurora, but this is a very good card from Rosetta for Runeblade decks. Dyadic Carapace is going to be our main chess piece because of its 3 block, but we are on Findle Spring Tunic for those really late game matchups, as well as it has Arcane Barrier 2, so we get easy access to AB3. Grasp of the Arknight is going to be our premier gloves, giving us 3 block and easy rune chant generation when we have extra resources. And finally, Spellbound Creepers is a big help to us since a lot of our attacks don't naturally have Go Again, so the instant speed of non-attack actions that do have Go Again can give us some bonus action points. Now let's move on to the deck's main board. I want to start with our attacks, because I think those are the easier ones to explain, since most of them do pretty much the same thing. Amplify the Arknight, Drawn to the Dark Dimension, and Rune Flash, as well as Ninth Blade of the Blood Oath, all cost 1 less for each rune chant we control. We are on red and blue amplifies, both at 3. These are just a 3 for 6 or 3 for 4, depending on color. That costs 1 less for each rune chant, just a big number. Drawn to the Dark Dimension is a 2 for 3 at red, but draws us a card, so this can be good to extend our turns if we have a Go Again off of Creepers or off of something like a Succumb to Temptation. Rune Flash is a 3 for 4 at red, 3 for 2 at blue, but gains Go Again, but has Go Again, letting us actually go wide. And then Ninth Blade of the Blood Oath is just a really big attack that can come in if we have a ton of rune chants, which can easily come up. We are only on 2 Ninth Blades because it can get stuck a little bit, but it's still a good card that you probably should be playing. The rest of our attacks are just good Runeblade ones. We are playing Snuff Out, which is a new card from Rosetta that lets us destroy an aura we control on hit to make that hero we hit discard a card, which is really easy to do in Visera, considering we'll probably have a rune chant that was generated off of playing the Snuff Out. Swarming Gloomveil is just one of the best Runeblade attacks in the entire game. We've talked about this a bunch in other videos, so I'm not going to read it. But it's a Go Again 0 for 4 that sometimes makes our things unpreventable. And the last attack in our main board is going to be Rune Rager Swarm at red and blue, because it is just a free Go Again that it has Go Again if we made an aura or played an aura, which is super easy. On the yellow, but fair amount of blues in the deck. We have 15 in our deck. As a lot of turns we will be activating Grasp, or we'll need to pay for something like a Rattlebones or the Snuff Out. The rest of it I have enough rune chance, so a good amount of blues is worth it. The rest of our deck is going to be, of course, non-attack actions. We'll start from the top and go in alphabetical order, just like how Fabry has it. Deadwood Dirge is a new action from Rosetta, one of the best actions, actually. It is a 0-cost go again action. Most Runeblade actions block 2, so I'll note the ones that do block 3. But Deadwood Dirge has an effect to destroy an aura you control, and if you do, you make 3 rune chance. It is incredibly easy to destroy the aura. As long as this isn't the first thing that you've played, you'll have the aura. Deadwood Dirge is not a cost to destroy the aura, so in response to the Deadwood Dirge, you have a Visera trigger, which means you can destroy the rune chant that you make off of him, which is really good. This card generates you so much rune chance, especially with Mordred Tide if you have that played this turn, and it has go again, so it can sometimes do better than Read the Runes. Malefic Incantation is a card we are playing 6 copies of, 3 red and 3 yellow. Malefic enters with 3 verse counters at red, 2 at yellow, and once per turn when we play an attack action card, we remove a verse counter and make a rune chant, making this 3 rune chants or 2 rune chants depending on color. It's destroyed when it has none, so it's a little hard to sack with Deadwood Dirge, unless we want to lose out on 1 rune chant, but sometimes that will happen if you really need to. But Malefic is incredibly powerful with cards like Mordred Tide, or with any of your attacks that require rune chants to be in play, since this can be an extra way to generate more off like a go again attack, so you can like Rune Flash to get 1 off Malefic, 1 off Viz, and then be able to play one of your other attacks straight after. So Malefic is an incredibly good card, as well as this just lets you set up, which is really good in Viz, since rune chants are really hard to block if there's a lot of them. Mordred Tide is sort of the core action. This one gives you 1 extra rune chant whenever you make a rune chant, which is really good since Viz doesn't make a large amount of rune chants at once most of the time. Of course, now he will off things like Deadwood Dirge, Read the Runes, Revel in Runeblood, but for the most part, off your ability and off of things like Malefic, you'll be making 2 now instead of 1, which is double value, as well as this blocks 3, making it just a really good card in general. We are playing 2 copies of Rattlebones. Rattlebones is another 3-block action that lets you banish a Runeblade attack action from your graveyard, and you can play it this turn. As well as it has go again, and if you've dealt arcane damage, you can play it as an instant, which means Rattlebones can give you an action point. The problem with Rattlebones is it costs 2, and it does target, which means against some matchups, such as Enigma or New, Passover can get you, but most matchups won't have a lot of graveyard hate at instant speed, which means Rattlebones can just be a good recursive thing that just makes an attack cost 2 pretty much. And it gives you the action point, which is really good off of getting like a drawn to the pretty much had go again. We are playing 2 copies of Read the Runes. This card is a little slower than Deadwood Dirge since it doesn't have go again, but it still lets you generate a lot of rune chants to set up, which makes it a really good card. Revel in Runeblood is if you've another non play off turn, you do destroy all of your rune chants, which is a little alleviated by the one that you just made off. The 0 for 4, it's the best thing to play off of creepers since it does have go again. It can be a little hard to play though if you don't set it up. Runic Reckoning is a 1-cost action. It costs 1 less for each rune chant you control, so pretty much if you control a rune chant, it's free. The next Runeblade attack you play this turn gets +3, and this card also blocks 3, and it has Go Again. So it's great to do off creepers. It's really good to come in with your actual one-hit effect in Snuff Out. But other than that, it's just pushing 3 damage, and it's a non-attack for Viz, and it's a Runeblade card for Viz. Succumb to Temptation is probably the most, I was going to say oppressive, but considering how much other disruption is in this game, I don't think that's true. Succumb to Temptation is a 0-cost 3-block yellow action that can be played at instant speed if we've dealt arcane damage this turn, and it has Go Again, so it can be used to gain an extra action point. It gives the next Runeblade attack action card you control that hits this turn. Look at it's a hero. Look at that hero's hand, choose a card, and then they discard it. So, attack hits, if you do arcane damage, in reactions you can play this to give the attack that's currently attacking this hit effect, which is very good. Really strong on our super wide turns, especially with things that don't normally have Go Again, like Drawn to the Dark Dimension and Amplify the Arknight. And this card, just sheer existence, can make your opponent want to block more to not lose to it. And even if they do block, you can still play it for the action point as long as they've taken arcane damage to come in with another attack after. The last 2 non-attacks in the deck are blues. Become the Arknight is one of Viserai's specializations. This is a 3-block, free blue action. It is a Viz spec, and it says choose 1. Discard a non-attack action to search for a Runeblade attack action, reveal it, put it into your hand. Or discard an attack action to search for a Runeblade non-attack action, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck and Go Again. It's on both. You can turn an attack into a non-attack, or a non-attack into an attack. Everything in the deck's Runeblade that you would ever be discarding or tutoring for, so that 3 in most of his decks because it blocks 3, and for the fact that it just fixes your hand if you have a this and 3 attack hand, this can fix it, as well as this is a non-attack action. So if you have that hand, you can play Become the Arknight, maybe find like a Rune Flash that has Go Again, and then play like a Revel in Runeblood tutored off of into like some other attack or something. So Become the Arknight gives you a lot of value there. And then the final one is Machinations of Dominion. This is another new Rosetta card. It is a 0-cost 3-block non-attack action. Actually, I guess a lot of the new Runeblade non-attack actions do block 3. That's really good. I didn't really realize that till I'm recording this. That's pretty good for like Face Purgatory. You get an easy 8-block with that. But Machinations of Dominion is a action that gives your next Runeblade attack action overpower this turn, and if you've played or made an aura, Go Again. So you're going to be playing or making an aura since you're playing Viserai, so it gives it overpower and Go Again. Incredibly good with Snuff Out or Succumb to Temptation, although you don't really need the Go Again off Succumb because you're going to give that attack Go Again, but really good with it still, and Snuff Out. Overpower makes things harder to block. Also very good with Ninth Blade because it's 9 attack. That's really hard to block with the overpower. Next, let's move on to the inventory. Since we're done talking about all the main board stuff, the inventory is pretty standard, like a standard type sideboard. I'd say you have some tech cards and some equipment. Let's start with the equipment. I already talked about Tunic a little bit earlier. This is just going to be here for any game that's going to go super long. Similar reason to where like why Fi plays Tunic. If a game goes super late, you get so much value out of the Tunic resource over the block on the chess piece, but if a game is really fast, you just want the block. So you don't have to spend cards in your hand. Vex and Quillhand is here because I think this is better than playing No Rune Boot. Viserai decks are either playing this or Null Rune Boot for their AB1 of choice in the Runeblade / AB3 and Wizard matchups. I really like the effect to play the action at instant speed off of the Spellbound Creepers, so I prefer that Grasp of the Arknights, but I could see a reason to want the Grasp of the Arknight over Vexing Cool Hand and play Norrin Shoot instead. I personally just prefer Vexing Cool Hand. And I do think this is a little better because if you ever have to use it, you can use it to get 2 Rune Chants to play any of your Rune Chant cheaper things. Or turn on Swarming Moonveil, a little easier. Crown of Providence is in the sideboard because if we're playing against a very disruptive deck that we don't disrupt very easily, think something like New or... well, against Guardian we'd probably want Face Purgatory, but versus those disruptive matchups that Face Purgatory probably isn't the best against, we'd want Crown of Providence. Also something like Enigma, we'd prefer Crown of Providence because we don't, they just play their hand if we make them discard a card, so it doesn't really matter. So this just helps us against like CNCs and stuff. And then Amethyst Tiara, this is going to come in versus Wizard because we're not playing any of the other helmets. They're not going to throw attacks at us, specifically against the not Acilio, because Acilio is more of a Rune Blade. But he's still a Wizard, so you want AB3, right? But Amethyst Tiara, really good versus Kano. Pretty good versus Verdance, because they have pretty high amounts of Arcane. I guess you could even put this into Acilio. You could just play this into him. Purgatory is pretty good into him, but you're drastically overblocking, and he doesn't really have the disruption if he wanted. The rest of the sideboard is just a bit of defensive tools and some tech. Sink Below and Haunting Renditions are our 4 blocks of choice. You'll be wanting to bring these in when you think you need to be a little more defensive. If there's a race you don't think you can win, you'll want to bring in the Sink Belows, and if you're playing against any arcane damage or big attacks, bring in the Haunting Rendition. So the sinks into those really big decks could be pretty good too. Condemned to Slaughter is our tech for the Illusionist matchup. It's just a guaranteed aura disruption. I've seen decks on 1, but I think 2 is a pretty good number to have, just so we can blow up those auras without our opponent ever being able to do anything. And then finally, I have 3 Snag in the sideboard. Snag can just be any other card you want. I was going to put in Warmonger's Diplomacy because I've been seeing a lot of Viserais playing that, even though Warmonger's is a card very good into Viserai. Viserai has a lot of turns right now where he can just set up Rune Chants, so it's not as bad into him. If you're setting up a turn, you can play the Warmongers yourself, say peace, and then on your next turn just set up a whole bunch of Rune Chants. And then have Warmongers for opponents to hit them with it, or opponent Rune Blades to hit them with it and maybe mess them up, or any other deck that Warmongers would be good against. But that card is very expensive right now, and I wanted to maybe not have the $100 option, especially since this deck doesn't play CNC. Cards, which is really good. It's all Runeblade cards and equipment. But again, Snag can be anything. I've seen Fate Foreseen if you want a 3rd D react. There's a lot of new, or I end up playing against a lot of new randomly. There's not even that much new in my like local area. It's just like I somehow always end up playing against it, and I wish I had Snag, and I have Snag in here. So again, Snag can be any tech card. But why? I'm on 3 Snag. You could even play 2 tech cards and a 3rd Condemned to Slaughter if you really wanted to. But with all of that, that is going to be the end of the video. Viserai is a very good hero right now because he has everything. He's a little weaker into the obvious super busted things, but I mean, who isn't? Let's be real. His Enigma matchup is pretty good because yes, they can use shields to break rune chants, but if they can't and they have a massive mirror guy in play, one rune chant just takes them down. As well as he's just a good aggressive deck that can beat the other aggressive decks fairly consistently, and he has a good amount of armor as well. So Visera is a good general deck if you wanted to find just a fun deck to play. He does have some turns where he can brick a little bit, but thanks to the new tools, those don't happen as often. And I think Visera is a good hero to start with if you were starting out as well. But with all of that, that is going to be the end. Of course, as always, I will have a link to the deck list in the description. You can make a copy, make any changes that you want. All of that stuff. All the links go. See you all in the next one. I hope you all had a good day or have a good day. And goodbye.